Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Tune in to Cause Before Symptom every night on Rumble, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just type in James Carner. With me today is a friend of mine who reached out to me through my show. His name is Urban. And Urban is a truth seeker and satanic ritual abuse researcher. And of all of the information that he has come up with, I thought it would be interesting to get him on the show and talk a little about satanic ritual abuse, about their survivors, about the missing children, about the Freemasonic lodges, etc. Welcome, Urban.
How's it going? I'm glad to be here.
Good. Thank you. I'm really glad to have you here too. So tell me how you got into researching satanic ritual abuse.
Really, this has been kind of it started off as whispers in the community, and then you hear about it, and it's something that is really hard to swallow and believe is going on. So I decided that I was going to go and figure it out myself. So I started collecting books, trying to reach out and talk to people who've been through it. Primarily through Twitter and X, because there's a small community of people, survivors there. So just talking to survivors and getting as much material on it as possible is how I got into it.
What did you find out by researching this topic?
In my opinion, it's absolutely real. It's absolutely real 100%. That's not to say that there are definitely people in the community who, in my opinion, have been planted into the community to sow seeds of doubt, to cause a little bit of chaos, to discredit people's stories, people who say they're survivors but aren't. So that's why it's important to talk to people. Just ask them about their experiences if they're willing to share. A lot of them are. It helps them. It helps you. And you can empathize with them a little bit. But in my opinion, all of the books that I've read, multiple different authors, multiple different sources, there's a lot of similarities, and a lot of those similarities build on each other, in which you reach a point where just a lot of it is so absolutely insane that I would be more surprised if some of these people were making it up than if it wasn't true. So I believe it's happening.
Right. And there are hundreds of thousands of satanic ritual abuse survivors. And there are hundreds of books, including the Franklin Cover-Up, The Body Hunters, Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. He's a great author. The Devil's High School, Satan's Underground, Voices from the Darkness, The Road to Recovery, Satanic Panic, the creation of a contemporary legend, The Fraternity of Shadows, which is a really good book, The Mind Control Conspiracy, The Underground, The Phoenix Project, The Devil's Playground. I think I just said that.
You'll have to email me these, because some of these I haven't heard of, and I would like to get all of these and read these.
Sure. Satan's Harvest, The Secret World, The Hidden Evil, The Devil's Disciples, The Silent Children. And it goes on and on and on and on. And tonight on my show, I'm going to be talking about Albert Pike, the godfather of Freemasonry, and what the internet says about him, what the books say that he wrote, and the read between the lines scenario of who he really was and what he was trying to accomplish, because he was the one who actually predicted World War I, World War II, and the coming World War III. And I'm putting a deep dive into all of that. And Albert Pike, I believe, is connected to this satanic ritual abuse problem we have in America. In fact, from what I understand, 800,000, and this is every year, 800,000 children, just children, go missing every year in America alone. And we believe, or I believe, and from the research that I've done, it looks like mainly it's a child trafficking, satanic ritual abuse problem. Can you tell me a little bit about what you found out about that?
Well, there are a lot of great people in the community, a lot of great people. There's a lot of institutional abuse, which would be your Catholic Church, your Mormonism. And of course, I I'm going to just say there are great Catholic people out there, great Mormon people out
Mhm.
there. This is just something that happens in small sects, usually at higher levels for the initiated, they'll call them. But this happens in institutions, Freemasonry, fraternal orders, and they really use the good people in these institutions to cover up the abuse. And you just look at the Catholic Church for, in my opinion, about 500 to 1,000 years, they have been engaging in sexual molestation. And I think if we see this happen for 500 years at least, somebody needs to start asking questions about why it's happening.
Right.
Um, so a lot of institutional abuse has been reported. That's in the news. That's reported. You said 800,000 children alone. That's not even counting the children that are born without birth certificates,
Mm.
which is a massive problem. One great resource that I encourage everyone to go and look at, it's the International Tribunal of Justice for Human Trafficking, I believe. They put together a panel of people who are professionals and survivors, and they gave some statistics and some numbers there. And one of the people who I think was an ex-CIA agent or chief or something said that these children that are born off of the grid with no birth certificates, they on average live about 2 to 3 years. So some of them are for body part harvesting. Some of them are for ritual sacrifice. Some of them, the ones that are, I guess, have the highest potential, they turn those into mind-controlled slaves. That's a military project. Kathy O'Brien, I'm sure you've heard of her.
Mhm.
She was one of the first people to come forward and talk about this in detail. She has got some great detailed books on it. But really, this is a monetary operation. It's set up to make money. It's set up to fund some really bad things. And the love of money is the root of all evil. We know that. So it causes people to do some evil things. But I've found out that it's very real. It's happening more than we think it is, um, and it's truly horrific.
Now, Aleister Crowley was saying in one of his letters to his mentees, in saying that in satanic ritual abuse, it's the molestation of boys on his end is where he got his power. Is this true? Is this what the SRA survivors that you talk to, is this what happens?
Um, I tend to believe that they believe that. For instance, again, the Catholic Church, it's become kind of a sick joke. I mean, I think we all have heard that kind of like, oh, priests abuse little boys. It's not really funny when you know the extent of it, but
Mm-hmm.
it would certainly appear that those who are perpetrating it believe that. That's my opinion. And yes, of course, from the people I've talked to who have been abused,
Mm-hmm.
partly it's trauma to
Mm-hmm.
inflict the trauma, which is part of the mind control research that the Nazis and Joseph Mengele pioneered. The trauma is important, and often satanic rituals are the highest form of trauma. They might call it black magic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but yeah, they absolutely believe this. And at the end of the day, the people who are doing this are arguably just absolutely insane people.
And
They can call
religious
it
and
whatever they want.
religious. They're
Yes.
just absolutely religious, and they believe in Kabbalism, which in the Talmud talks about having children as wives, and it's if you read between the lines, they're abusing children, and the Talmud doesn't seem to care about the safety of children and taking care of them, and it goes against all of what the left and the right stand for in America, period.
Yeah.
And if they knew that the rulers or elites that control the majority of the corporations and money worldwide are into this religion of Kabbalism and the practice of achieving what they would consider enlightenment through abusing and harming people on earth. If the world got figured this out, we could take them all down because there's only a select few of them. But they have such a huge, I guess, spell cast onto the people to where they have plausible deniability in the idea that this is so crazy and non-human to do that there's no way it would be possible. But yet you've spoke to many people who have been through or who have allegedly been through these abuse practices. Can you tell me some stories that you've heard that have caught your attention of SRA?
I will point a lot of people to the Imagination podcast. That's where a friend of mine, her name's Emma, she interviews them. That's the whole podcast. She interviews usually a new survivor every week.
Wow.
But yeah, she has over 200 interviews. So she claims she has the largest library or list of survivors. So
you said 200. So you're a data guy. I know this.
Yes.
We've talked before. I'm a data guy.
Mm-hmm.
200 survivors of SRA. What are the odds that all 200 of them are actually lying and it's just a way of getting attention? What are the odds of that?
Well, you know what? That's absolutely my way of thinking. So I say a little over 200. I can't remember how much over, but let's say 230 interviews. Let's say that 30% of them are lying. What about the other 70%?
Right.
I mean, the other 70%, going back to your question about what I've heard, high-ranking Mormon abuse, the leadership of the Mormon church. Really what this is this is a way to absolve the government of official responsibility, plausible deniability. Mm-hmm. So if they want somebody gone, they want somebody smeared, they want protection for somebody important, but they don't want it on the books, what they'll do is they will mind control these people. Fritz Springmeier wrote the whole book on it. He's detailed the process and how it works.
Right.
But they will create slaves out of these people, and they will use them for work that won't be traced back to the government. So all those types of things, pimping out, sexual prostitution in the Mormon church. The way that it was explained in the interview was that in the Mormon church, their marriages are arranged, and this lady who was under mind control said that it would be a very shameful thing if the man lost control of the woman. So the woman was the man's property. And if he was to lose control over her, he would be looked down upon in the Mormon community.
Wow.
So he would prostitute her out, use her to make money, use her to sell drugs, all kinds of stuff. Use them to traffic drugs around, between some of the businesses that they were involved in. I mean, it just goes so deep, and they have somebody everywhere, and that's what they got really good at. They nailed this.
That's the key right there.
They nailed this process down as a science. That was the Nazi research, and ever since then, they have I believe, like the Freemasonry thing. Primarily, that has been the infiltration mechanism. That is how they have gotten into every part of society, is through Freemasonry, fraternal police. There's all kinds of different organizations, not just Freemasonry, and not all Freemasons are bad. Absolutely not. But, my opinion is primarily when a lot of money is involved, you maybe should just at least start to ask questions.
Absolutely. And that's what the Franklin cover-up was all about. And it literally was a child trafficking ring of boys from a school that a pastor was using to pimp out to politicians. And this whole thing happened in the 80s and it became national news. And then all of a sudden it was gone, swiped
Yes.
away. And now it's just a book and they discredited the author from that. And that's how they do this. They will
Yes.
slander, discredit, and make sure that the person is insane. For example, Fritz Springmeier was put into prison wrongfully
Yes.
for,
Yes.
I forgot what the charge was, but
A
this
bank
is
robbery or
Frank,
something.
yeah, something ridiculous. And he's all he is he's an author and researcher.
I
And
know.
what's he
I don't
doing
believe it.
robbing banks?
Doesn't make any sense. I heard an interview with him. I heard the way he spoke, the way his mind works, and I'm like, no way in hell this guy is robbing a bank. I don't believe it. And that
Yeah.
to me is battle scars. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that Fritz Springmeier has a lot of good work, and that doesn't mean that maybe they could have sent some people to him and fed him bad research. That's possible. They do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
I think Fritz Springmeier himself is legit. And I think a lot of his research is he put some blood, sweat, tears, and time into that research.
Otherwise, why would the CIA put his book on their website? All you have to do is go to Google and type 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati CIA, and you will see his book right there on their website.
You know
Trippy.
why that happened?
No, tell me.
So this is what I heard. I think I heard it from Fritz Springmeier. It was because they found a copy of that book in the possession or location of Osama bin Laden. So take that as you will.
That's a
Maybe it was discrediting.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Osama was, that's interesting. Bin Laden, whom worked with the Bushes, the Bin Laden
Yeah.
family were friends with the Bushes, and that's another rabbit trail to go down. But that's interesting. I did not know that. I need to do some more research about that
Yeah,
and
definitely.
talk about
Definitely.
that. So back to satanic ritual abuse and how it's actually happening in every single city in the United States and worldwide, but we can't that's another rabbit trail. But almost every single city, in fact, I've done the research. There are, I believe, 3,000 cities, and I believe there are 1,100 lodges.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough lodges, in each state to gain control over people. And what I've learned from Freemasonry is they're very benign from the beginning and say we love everybody and we're here to help the community. Okay,
Yes.
we're here to help businesses strive and help bring people together to stop the homeless, help the children, help the poor, etc. And they give you this this touchy feeling of goodness and God and full of godness by recruiting people that they select. You see, you can't just knock on their door and say, can I be a part of the Freemasons? No, they recruit and look for people, not just your typical average blue collar worker, but people who have made some kind of influence in their city to where they could use and abuse and help their organization stay in power in that region. And the Freemasonry lodges are not only just for power of a city, but they're also connected, from what I understand, underground, meaning there was a whistleblower who said that there are actual train stations, not train, but like railways underground that hook all the way directly to the Denver International Airport from all of the lodges. And so not 1,000 of them, but probably, in my opinion, there would be one in every state. And this is how they're pulling kids, trafficking them, and moving them out of state so that they're never to be found, all at the direct hub of the Denver International Airport, which if you've done research on it, it is very Masonic driven. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be the center point for after World War III that Albert Pike talks about. After World War III, this is where all of the leaders of the world are going to meet and start over with their utopia and 500 million people that'll be left after the destruction, which I don't believe they can achieve myself. However, this is what they believe, and this is what they're trying to do. So Freemasonry, have you seen or talked to anybody who said that there's a connection there with satanic ritual abuse.
Oh yeah, I mean, just plenty of the survivors that I have talked to have absolutely pointed fingers at some form of Freemasonry, or like I said, or Catholic Church, or Mormonism, institutions like that, and their fraternal counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that this works, again, I think I said at the beginning, fear is the equivalent of faith within the occult system. So whereas you and I would have faith, they have fear, and that is how Satan works. And you have faith in God. Well, the equivalent for Satan is fear. Now, the way that this whole system works is generally blackmail, or some form of fear, impetus, fear. So when you get so high into the Masonic lodges, most likely what will happen is you will get in with a small group of people. And again, if these people have a lot of money and they're very involved in business, most likely it's going to happen sooner. It may be more likely to happen that way. But what's going to happen is, once you open yourself and expose yourself to this small, tight-knit group, if they are involved, you will start having to scratch their back. It will be a favor game, and you'll put one foot in, and then you'll gradually get pulled into the darkness. And it's that blackmail. Mm-hmm. They have to keep fear going. They have to keep people afraid so that they keep going. For instance, why are these mind-controlled slaves? Why are they doing these things? It's because they subject them to these rituals, these satanic rituals, and so that scares the shit out of you. Mm-hmm. You're scared shitless. Mm-hmm. If you've watched these people do this, I better do what they're telling me to do, or they're going to kill me. They won't think twice. Mm-hmm. Fear is what keeps this system working. Mm-hmm. So that's why when I talk to Freemasons, for instance, my dad was actually a Freemason. And one thing he didn't understand, in my opinion, was that some people view it as a religion itself. Some people view Freemasonry itself as a religion, and that's what Albert Pike talks about. So once you get in with this group that's founded on oaths and secrecy, you have to take an oath that's pretty brutal. There are probably more oaths as you get higher. I know that Bill Schneebelen that you interviewed, mm-hmm. he's legit. All of the stuff he said, my dad actually confirmed. So yeah, absolutely. He was absolutely a Freemason. He was absolutely a high degree Freemason. It's the secrecy, it's the oaths, and it's that environment which allows this system to flourish. So sure, you could be a Freemason, be a good guy. But when you're keeping secrets, when you're bound by an oath, and you feel this brotherly bond, oh, don't tell my wife that what I'm doing right now. You're bound by that oath. Mm-hmm. And Bill Schneebelen says, past a certain degree, the oath actually does cover murder. So, mm-hmm. If a fellow brother commits murder, you have to help him cover it up. Now, the low degrees don't do that. It's like except for murder. But I believe the higher degrees do, because Bill Schneebelen said it. And I do know that Masonic oaths transcend national sovereignty lines. So, for instance, if we were, the United States was at war with China, this is just an example, mm-hmm. but a Freemason versus a Chinese Freemason or something like mm-hmm. that, they would have an oath to help each other, and it doesn't matter that they're from different countries. That is Freemason doctrine. That is, factual. So that is what allows this system to flourish. It's really just a very bad combination. Again, seriously, not all Freemasons are bad people. That's
no, 95% of them are just typical people working with what they think are higher ups in the community. And mm-hmm. that the brotherhood is just about helping each other out to lift their businesses up. And while they're doing that, they are helping with, raising money for, cancer and all
Yes,
kinds of other things. And so, yeah, they're not gonna see that it's evil because they get tested on a weekly
absolutely.
basis, and they're
Yes.
not going to just say, yeah, we worship Satan, come on in, because that doesn't appeal to anybody. But what does is when you refine them and
Yep.
work on them and show them your riches and your glory and your you know whatever you've built through Freemasonry. You give them something that they want, and us being coveters, we want what our neighbors have, and therefore they make it appear that it's a really good organization that helps the community, but at the top, not at the bottom, not at the middle, not even close to the top, just at the top. There's only a select few in that lodge who actually know the real truth, that they are there to recruit, to exploit, to go into every city and get in control of their municipality, their county, their city, their utility, electricity, energy, all of it, in order to report back to the main lodge, which could be on the East Coast or could be in another country, and basically say, we have this section settled and done, and these are the people that are leading this area, and that's how they do it. And so headquarters will tell the main, the lodge in a city, go out, we need people for this certain subject. They will recruit, put it in, and do it. And they won't tell them why they're doing it because they're bound by secrecy. And a
Yeah.
lot of the jobs that they'll get, they won't understand what the goal is, and they will do something, but
Yes.
they're experts at compartmentalization, just like the military. And so that's how they keep the secrecy. And because the people in the lodge who start, they actually get help financially from their brothers, there's no way they'd want to leave. This is where you can finally be able to get a loan for a house, and you can finally get a good job for the city, and you're making okay money, but enough to really be a little bit above everyone else. And that's
Yeah.
the appeal. Just give them just enough, but not over, so that they will continue doing what you say. Is that what you found?
Yeah. One question. Have you read the book Occult Theocracy? It's a very large book, but it details the entire timeline of the mysteries, all of the different guises it goes under, and it talks about how they initiated people. And it is a refining process. It flows to the top. You get gradually more enlightenment as you go to the top. And
Right.
like you said, it's very compartmentalized. The people that are doing the work are just scratching someone's back or doing them a favor.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this works. And one thing that we as researchers do is we give it a little bit more. We make it seem more like organized at all levels than it is, but in reality, it's organized at the top, tippy top, and
Mm-hmm.
that's about it. The rest works on blackmail and favors and back scratching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the military, in my opinion, having talked to a former operator, or I guess a super soldier operator, MK Ultra operator,
Mm.
has told me that they have a assembly line now for this training. They can create these super soldiers in a process that's very fast, that's very formulaic. They have this down to a science.
Are these the
And
super soldiers Russ Distar was talking about?
I would believe so. I would
Okay.
believe so. Yes.
All right. And the Black Awakening,
So
his book.
yes, I believe. Well, it's just general assassins, people to do stuff like that for the military. What
Right.
I'm trying to get at here is that I think, I think my opinion, and from all the research that I've done, it would seem that MK Ultra and Monarch programming is now official military doctrine, and it really has been for a long time. I mean, to any person who doesn't understand it, any veterans that watch your show, a veteran who went through basic training, that is the lowest level MK Ultra program. That is
Absolutely.
MK Ultra. So
Hmm.
if you want some type of idea as to what I'm talking about, it's that.
Hmm.
But the trauma gets worse, and that's how they lock it in. And it gets really deep with multiple personality disorder and stuff like that.
Right. So they
Um,
perfected it to create the perfect assassin and to be turned on just by either a secret word or a sound or a color. And that's why we see all of these cases. This is, I believe, probably a majority of the cases of school shootings, church shootings, etc., are MK Ultra victims whom there is a common denominator between all of them, and all of them have some form of, in their family, a high up military officer. And
always.
and so they have recruited their kids to be in these programs, and most likely the parent doesn't even know they're recruiting their kids because they were an MK
Yes.
Ultra. And so these kids who come out of high school, they seem normal, and then all of a sudden they pick up a gun and try to shoot President Trump. they're they're not they're not that actual individual kid. In fact, their personalities have been split,
Yeah.
and the persona that was given to them by these programs was turned on, and that is who actually committed the crime. And it's so easy to leave your fingerprint off because they're programmed not to talk and just to say why they did it, which politically they will give them all of the answers they need in order to satisfy the world as to the why or how. But I did notice that after the shooting of President Trump, the media isn't even talking about this at all, and they're not going after the guns. And I think
Yeah.
that's really bizarre because
It is.
I believe, and this is conjecture, it's subjective, it's I wouldn't say conspiracy theory, but I believe that the majority of these shootings, these incidences, are the higher ups trying to get rid of our guns so we can't defend ourselves, and easier for us to be controlled. Do you think that this also is part of the SRA MK Ultra agenda?
Yeah, this is a multifaceted thing. So I have a few things to say here. Okay, so there were two documentaries made by I think she used to be on InfoWars. Her name's Millennial Millie, but she made
Yep.
two documentaries called Shadowgate.
Yep.
And
It's a
these
great documentary.
documentaries, they're great. They talk about this software
Hmm.
that probably now has AI integrated into it at
Okay.
very high levels. They can, for instance, they can feed you information through social media, and they can kind of corral you around using this. That's probably, in my opinion, what happened with the Crooks guy. They probably were feeding him a lot of information. Just he thought it was just the internet. They're feeding him information, and then, however, he was triggered. He went and carried it out. Now, as far as the guns issue, Fritz Springmeier recently said his opinion was that they have found that it's going to be too hard to take our guns from us. So they're going to instead attempt to have us use them on each other.
Civil War.
Yes.
Hmm.
So what this would require is raising the tension of the country, and that's absolutely happening.
Using
Everyone's getting
internet, MK Ultra.
everyone's getting tenser, on the edge of their seat. It's hard to have a conversation with people.
Hmm.
And again, conspiracy theory alert here. What I'm about to say is that I have heard that they can turn a certain frequency or a certain level of energy into homicidal rage.
Through cell
That's what
towers.
Yes, through
Hmm.
any type of
Wi-Fi.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, maybe that's not real, but I believe it probably is because
Mm-hmm.
billions of dollars a year go into this research. So I think that what's happening is they're raising the anxiety rate of the country. They need to get us to a certain point. And that's why, I didn't talk to you about this. Maybe I left a comment, but
We
I
talked
had
briefly about it. Yeah.
I had predicted that Trump would be assassinated before this happened. I had predicted it for a while because I had figured out that his gematria of his name in Hebrew is the same as like the Jewish
Mm-hmm.
Messiah, son of David.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got something planned for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were setting him up to be a counterfeit Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
to be a man that everyone worships.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that he would have to fulfill the whole thing. Like they would have to sacrifice him. Now, I am torn on whether this was a psyop or not. There's a lot of weird stuff. His
Weird.
ear looks perfectly fine. The
Right.
the the kid younger than me, I'm 25,
Mm-hmm.
carrying this out. Um, them saying Iran did it. I don't know. And then it happened on the same day as the Bohemian Grove ritual. That's weird.
The
The
cremation of care.
the astrology, it was the chaos constellation. I think it was Mars and Uranus were right on top of each other, which
Astrology
is
is huge
it's
with
all
these
important
people.
to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever planned this thing knew these things. And I'm not sure whether it was a psyop or if it was a legitimate, like they wanted him to die that day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not sure, but I think that they are trying to use Trump to invoke this civil war. I don't know what the trigger will be, but I think that the assassination attempt was us raising a notch higher on the anxiety scale. I don't know when, for instance, I don't know when or where the edge of this cliff is. We're heading towards the edge of a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And, to go off the cliff, you have to be standing at the edge. I don't know how much further we need to be raised, but a couple things could happen. They could try again to get Trump, and they could succeed somehow.
Mm-hmm.
If Trump was to be assassinated
Mm-hmm.
successfully, it would, that would be like, a lot of these people, I call it messianic Trumpism
Mm-hmm.
because it really is. I mean, these people are worshiping Donald Trump. I think what's going to happen is if something happens to Trump, people will go crazy.
Hmm.
Or another potential idea is Trump just doesn't win the election. People are so sure that he's going to win, like everyone's acting like it's a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
And from my research, all of the elections are easily rigged. These are computer-based
Simple.
systems.
Yeah.
You know about
Algorithm.
computers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backdoors. Easy to hack into systems if you wrote it.
Well,
you know.
any type of computer system, anyone who knows about computers knows it's just easy to do. So yeah, so that's in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot, but Donald Trump, in my opinion, 100% is at the center of this civil war thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something with Donald Trump is probably going to be the trigger for shit to go wild and for us to use our guns on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know. I don't know if that energy thing comes into it. If they are able to turn that rage homicidal, it'll be a bloodbath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again, we're speculating. We are speculating.
Very, very speculative. There was a movie with John Cusack. I forgot the name of it, but the cell towers turned on a frequency and everyone turned on each other.
Yeah,
And I
there it
forgot
is.
the name of it, but that was what it was about. And everyone, was turning off their cell phones, shutting them down. Anybody near a cell phone, they would turn into like a zombie or something like that. And the human body, it's a beautiful instrument, in my opinion, made by a creator. And for the elite to want this to happen doesn't mean it's actually going to happen,
Absolutely.
because when science says it's settled and they can control a person through frequency, drugs, and visuals. It still doesn't do everybody. And there's other variants that people have that they don't have, like, different ways that their bodies are functioning over others. It's like you can't convince the entire world to become alcoholics through electromagnetic ELM
Yeah.
frequency, drugs, and other things, and then say drink, 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 drink. You can only get a certain percentage. And that, if you study history on mind control, it machine capable um, forced will, if you may, if I may, machine capable forced will, it's still a low percentage that actually zombify and do what the elite want. So I think there's they're telling us through Hollywood, because we know that they control the Hollywood because it's the perfect, well, it was the perfect mind control place where you can put out a movie and steer people in the direction of thinking, because I believe in the power of manifestation. Proverbs 18:21 says, power of life and death reside in your tongue. You can speak forward blessings or cursings. We are, in a way, imaginative gods, where whatever we think of, we speak it into existence. It will happen. And the elite are trying to do the same thing, but they continue to run into roadblocks. So when we were talking about, speculative programming, people turning us into zombies and etc., I find it hard to believe that they can actually pull it off, especially when there are still so many Christians in the United States of America. And I believe that when you choose Jesus on earth and the Holy Ghost dwells in your temple through baptism, you are protected from these, psychotronic, machination, mind control. That's what I believe. Not to a full extent, but to enough to where you will know you're doing harm if you are doing it, and you have that choice of moving forward or not. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to. I think it would be a good idea to lay down the 5 most important principles to mind control, because what works in an individual works on a society, but slower. And that's what Hollywood is. It has been going on for a long time, and you can see it in usually the older generation. I mean, they do have a lot of programming. Disney's been around for a long time.
Conditioning.
Disney.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Disney was literally created for programming. That's the only reason it exists, and they're rich off of it. It's sick. So the 5 principles that this whole thing revolves around. The first one is to have no needs. You have to remove a person's needs. So the process of doing that, there's many ways to do it.
Socialism, communism, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes. The second principle is to have no wants. You can't want anything.
Needs and wants, okay.
Yep. And then to have no wish or hope, to get rid of the person's ability to wish for something and to hope for something better.
Almost impossible to achieve.
You would think so, until your parents start doing these things to you, and they can get it out of you, and it's very disturbing and sick. Basically, it's called learned helplessness in psychology.
Helplessness, okay.
Yeah, basically, you condition someone to believe that there's no hope, that their life will always be this way. And through repetition, through Pavlovian conditioning, you learn to be helpless. That's a real term. I mean, people can look it up. So that's number 3. Now, number 4 is to survive at any cost. And this is, right now I forgot the guy's name, Darwinism.
Yeah,
this
Darwinism.
Is Darwinism.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This is Darwinism, and it is very important to this whole system, because Darwinism has green-lit sociopathy. I see it all the time. People have this mindset that, well, I'll just be the predator and you'll be the prey. And well, the strong survive. That's this mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it gives someone an excuse to be a sociopath, a psychopath, and then just say they're the predator.
Sounds
It's
like
just,
every story in the Old Testament.
well, it's just business. That's a term. It's just business. Um, if I don't do it, somebody else will. If I don't get
Right.
over on this guy, somebody else. If I don't steal this, somebody else will.
Right.
So Darwinism is basically the fourth tenet, and the fifth and final one is that it is right to remain silent. You need to keep quiet. You don't tell anybody. You need to bottle up your emotions. You need to you need to not talk about your feelings.
That's
You
a
need to.
Freemasonic term as well.
Well, you always see
Mm-hmm.
these artists in Hollywood doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the five principles. There are probably more, but they all generally fall under that.
So you think America
So
has been put under these five principles?
absolutely,
Okay, so give
absolutely.
me some examples.
Okay, well, COVID was a perfect example. COVID
Hmm.
was, let's say, okay, let's leave out whether it was legitimate or not. The way that it was handled, the setup was straight out of the book for, let's say like Fritz Springmeier's book, Illuminati formula book,
Hmm.
straight out of the book. So what they would do, and I wrote an article about this, but what they would do, um, you know what? I'm actually about to. Can you still see me all right?
Hmm.
I'm going to pull up my own article and I'm going to read it off because it's very good on that. I'd like to
Okay.
share just a little bit.
Let me know if you need screen sharing too.
Oh, it's no, it's fine. I can read
Okay.
it. Just gotta.
Yeah, while you're
Let's
pulling
see.
that up, it's very interesting that 75% of the entire world took the experimental mRNA gene therapy drug,
Absolutely.
which they call a vaccine. It's nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort.
This this was because they introduced a time factor to it. This ticking death count. They would say, "Oh, this many people have died. This many
Mm-hmm.
people have died." That puts pressure onto a person. So that's how they did that. Okay, so I've got my article pulled up. The article that I wrote was titled "The Monarch Program Model of Hypnosis." So the most important rule is that hypnosis only works when it is expressly given consent. You need the person who's being hypnotized, mind controlled, they have to give it consent.
Stop
And
right
that,
there. That's the same thing as allowing a demon into your home by when they knock,
bingo.
you open
Yes.
the door, they say, "May I come in?" That's where you get in trouble. And you're saying that through COVID, these five principles, they use that as consent to allow us to give them more power.
Absolutely. That's how it's always worked. Always. All of it. Not just COVID. 9/11, we gave them the,
Patriot Act.
authority.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to spy
Okay.
on us for free and without any legalities towards the government. Yeah.
So I believe there are 8 steps. So I'm gonna go through these pretty fast. I'm not gonna get caught up in them. So the first step to this whole thing is the bait. It's focusing human attention. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to bait someone into the hypnosis. You
Mm-hmm.
can do it by asking them a question, setting up a question, setting up a situation that just makes the human mind, the human mind's naturally curious,
Mm-hmm.
so it always wants an answer. You got to bait them into it. The second step is to enhance awareness of the attention by immediate experience.
Okay.
So
We've
that
seen
is
this
the hook.
first one and two already through COVID.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So usually what you'll do is you'll use attention or shock.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah, that was
shock
those
of the
images of people. Sorry to interrupt, but those
oh,
are
you're
the
good.
the shock images were the body bags and the
Yes.
people in the hazmat suits, which were all faked. They were all faked because
Yes.
that hospital wasn't even full, and yet they faked it on the outside of the hospital. Just conveniently had a chopper there, filming them pulling bodies out of a hospital, putting it into a corner
Hmm.
thing, and it was only two bodies. That's it. And they're like, these are just coming in every minute. We can't keep up. The coroner vans, we're out of them. And it's like, yeah, so that got me on that one, right?
Yeah. So let's see. By
Remember,
using an immediate experience, the hypnotist creates a moment of chaos in which the mind reaches out for rational meaning. It
okay,
is in this moment of shock that the hypnotist will offer a new normal. And I use that word on purpose, a new normal,
that's what we
with
all heard after the show. we're
with
we,
which it
we're in a
is
new normal. It's we're never going to go back. We'll never go
that
back.
that's the whole thing this is centered around. Is
Mm-hmm.
hope that the subject will, in that moment of chaos, they will reach out and accept that new normal. So
Mm-hmm.
step three, leading the subject into accepting the experience.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, if the subject rejects the hook, it's over. You can't get them. You
Nobody
can't
went
get
to
them.
jail for it, so we accepted it, obviously.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
But there were those people. Oh, there were always those people who were not buying it. They wouldn't wear the masks. They didn't get the shots.
Right, but
So
I'm talking
some
about
people.
leaders who
Oh
were
yeah, yeah,
responsible. Like for example, even the news media, like Chris Cuomo, in New York, basically covering up for the mayor of New York,
yep,
or was it Chris Cuomo who was the mayor? I can't remember, but the governor or mayor of New York basically used his power to put senior citizens into a senior citizen home full of COVID patients
yeah.
and killed even more.
That
And
was
so,
true.
and he didn't go to jail. Did he go to jail? No, he's
No, they
back
never.
on the
No, they
news
never
and
go to
he's a
jail.
hero.
No, if you have money, you don't go to jail. But okay. So now this one I have an example for. So, and this is important because I had come up with this little thing here on my own. A lot of this I did a little bit of research on, but this I got. Um, Anytime in your mind when you are seeing, for instance, let's say you see like some musician who's like overtly satanic, you're going to be in your mind, you're going to say, they just mean, or, oh, they're just, anytime you do that, they're just, anytime you make up an excuse or you justify it,
Mm-hmm.
you're swallowing the bait, the hook. That's what you're doing. So, an example, you notice a significant amount of hidden phallic symbolism in Disney movies and artwork.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a brief moment within your mind where you'll find yourself saying, oh, well, maybe I just have a bit of a dirty mind, or maybe I'm looking at it too hard,
Sure.
whatever. That is you swallowing the hook. And
Mm-hmm.
once you swallow the hook, you're in for the ride.
Right. Kind of
Okay.
like satanic bands like Slayer, whom
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been interested in them. I know a lot of their songs, but I was interested in the interviews that they have when they're approached by the media saying, are you guys satanic? And they're like, no, but we use this as a shock feature, and that is the hook. You go, yep,
Yeah.
they're not satanic, they're just using it for rock, but yet we don't know personally if Kerry King, the guitar player, does rituals underneath his house every other week, and so yeah, that's the justifying of no, we're just doing it just to get people to look our way. And yeah,
Yeah.
and deep down they really are satanic.
Yeah. So that is integrating the new normal. So now at step four, we have introducing the goal. So whatever your goal is,
Mm-hmm.
it is widely understood that people have to marinate in an idea before it is able to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the preconditioning stage, and this is the function of Hollywood propaganda to
Mm-hmm.
introduce future goals for society subconsciously through
Mm-hmm.
fiction. So what we just covered in another example might be the rising death count that was constantly plastered all over the news, creating a
Mm-hmm.
subconscious tension in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the symbolism of a ticking clock is very common. The ticking clock, the hourglass, that is it helps to put pressure on a person to accept the new normal. Is what I'm
Stress.
saying. It
Time's
is
running
highly,
out. You're dead.
yes. It is highly likely the subject will accept the new normal if they perceive their time to make a decision is reduced or on a strict limit. And then here's a quote, and this is a profound quote that I love this quote. Um, the worst hypnotist is nothing more than a liar, attempting to
The
convince you of
worst.
a yeah,
I love it.
attempting to convince you of a mythology
Uh-huh.
that is intended to become your new normal.
Okay,
I'll read it
read
again.
that again. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The worst hypnotist is nothing more than a liar, attempting to convince you of a mythology that is intended to become your new normal.
Mm,
And that's from the Masters Mahon podcast,
that's a
which
good one.
you'll have to put the link to that in the description for whenever you post this, so
Sure.
people can watch it.
Yeah.
Step 5,
Mhm.
reinforcing the goal by repetition. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control.
Mhm.
Uh, Pavlov's
Stalin and
dog.
Hitler talked about repetition. Continue repeating a lie, everyone will believe it.
Yep, it's Pavlov's dog. You know, he would ring the bell, give him food, do it over and over, and eventually he'd ring the bell, and the
Mhm.
dog would expect the food.
Yep.
Let's see. Simple condition. I'm just making sure there's nothing I need to say on this part. In the modern context, this can be as simple as the rapidly growing number of mainstream music artists who are openly satanic. The new normal is being reinforced by repetition, the growing number of musicians promoting Satanism.
Right. Every
Uh,
year we get a football stadium
yes,
full of people, and then they do a satanic ritual. And every 4 years we do an Olympic satanic ritual, and everyone is accepting it, even though we're exposing it. But nobody's getting in trouble.
yeah,
Nobody, and they're
because
not going to
it's just,
stop. They're going to continue doing the satanic ritual abuse, which
and
is
they
abuse
always,
towards us if we're seeing this. Like, for example, when that person's scrotum or testicles were shown during live,
oh God,
you know,
yes,
it's like, what are you trying to do? Break the glass ceiling on showing children testicles? This is, the Olympics isn't
probably.
about, it's all I'm saying is that's abuse. So satanic ritual abuse isn't just happening to people getting kidnapped. It's actually happening to us physically,
Yes,
mentally,
and it's working.
worldwide. And it sure
It's working
is.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're at step 6 now. Encouraging dissociation and involuntary response to the goal.
Mm.
Okay, the goal for this step is to set up a trigger which functions as a command in a dissociated and involuntary subconscious way.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the above example of the satanic music industry, perhaps the music itself is the trigger. Look
Mm-hmm.
at the way modern young men and young women act. Do they seem to act in a way similar to what the music promotes? I'm younger and I see it absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that they act in a antisocial way. It's like the music in female and male rappers, the music is their script. They're doing what the music is talking about. So that's how you can confirm that, is because it's what they're doing what the music says. Okay, so yeah, another possibility for the trigger mechanism within the music programming is the social glorification of celebrities or celebrity worship. The subject is triggered by the desire to mimic or relate to their favorite celebrity or to fit in, social pressure.
Okay.
It's a subconscious and involuntary dissociated response.
Mm-hmm.
The music introduces the new amazing life, the mythology, the new normal that seems so amazing or relatable. The listener will easily find themselves fantasizing about being in their favorite celebrity's shoes. They want to be like their favorite celebrity.
Yep, they want to meet them. They want to hang out with them. Mm-hmm.
This is a key step for programming because it is imperative that the subject places themselves into the shoes of the music or of the person who they're being programmed using. Nobody is immune to this. This is the basis of neuro-linguistic programming and subliminal messaging.
So basically, what's happening underground, and we're talking about the secret societies. I believe the Freemasonry are a part of it. They are using these tactics, but using trauma physically. But above ground, they're actually using those tactics, but subliminally, not physically. and it's still working. So they're creating
Hmm.
their own monarch programming, or MK Ultra monarch programming on society, and maybe eventually, and maybe the reason why satanic ritual abuse is finally coming out now, perhaps they don't need to do the trauma based ritual abuse because they figured it out how to do it with technology.
Yeah, very possible, and it's all integrated with AI now. Um, Basically, when people refer to hypnosis, that's stepping into it's fiction or Hollywood movies story, and this is age like it's been around forever. Stories are a path to the subconscious mind because that's stepping into a trance. When you step into the shoes of the character, from a book you're reading,
Mm-hmm.
that you've entered into a trance into
You're
that
using your
book.
imagination, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see. This is step seven, building anticipation and expectation. So once you've conditioned your dog, you can trigger him with the bell and you have his complete attention.
Mm-hmm.
When you have done it right, you also have his mind, his mental space as well, paying attention. Okay, this is another important quote. The deeper the subject's attention, the more likely the hypnotist will gain the expectation assigned to the anticipation. I'm going to read that one again because that's
Mm.
it took me a minute to understand that one. So the
No,
deeper the subjects,
it's just like a slot machine.
yes,
It's a dopamine hit.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The deeper the subject's attention, the more likely the hypnotist will gain the expectation assigned to the anticipation.
So that'd be like going back to the news. It's like, man, I need my dopamine fix. It's the same thing as
Yes,
a slot machine. They're
yes,
and apps are created this way too. Like for example, TikTok is created to be like a slot machine. Every time you scroll up, you're getting a dopamine fix, and every time you get a quick little video, you're getting a dopamine fix, and that's why people
yes.
just stay on it and stay on it. And yeah, and they're doing this through news and through movies and
The
through
music
social
industry right
media and
here.
the music industry, right? Dude, obviously you've done your homework, obviously, and I really would like to get you back on the show because we're out of time. But
I'm
where
gonna
can
I'm gonna finish the last step. It's real quick, okay?
okay,
So the last step, it's
number
important to
nine, is it?
build. No, so I'm step seven. It's important to build an expectation.
Mm,
So like you said, the expectation of winning the slot machine. So
mm-hmm,
the final step, step eight, accepting any and all successes and using it as reinforcement the next time around.
mm,
So basically, that's in any hypnosis, it's always the same at the end.
mm,
You have to take what you've gained. The final step cements the idea of circular logic.
mm-hmm.
It continues and locks in the conditioning. It cements the new normal as truly normal. The increasing amount of artists coming out as openly satanic. This can be thought of as doubling down of the industry in general
Mm-hmm.
to the themes of moral decay and social delinquency. Simply put, it's quite obvious that the younger generation is being mentally destroyed as a result of music and TV and obviously parenting. Yet the industry is pushing the throttle to the max. Instead of less explicit and socially dangerous themes, the music is getting more satanic.
I agree, and we have a problem on our hands, and we need to spread awareness about this because we need to talk to our children about the music that we listen to, especially people like Taylor Swift, whom are not Christian. And if you see her rituals on stage, she is practicing witchcraft, and we have to be very careful. Just because a person says I'm a Christian and I have Christian beliefs does not
Yeah,
mean they are a Christian and
they've
have Christian beliefs. You have to
they,
use discernment.
they've even got it into the Christian music.
Oh,
Some of
it's
the
been
Christian
there
music,
since John Todd exposed it in the
yeah.
60s.
Now, honestly, music and Hollywood, I think, are the two most dangerous things in music because people um, very rarely can see it in its full light. They can't see the spell going on. They think it's harmless, and it's because they think it's harmless that it's dangerous.
Yeah,
Um, Really,
right.
there is a reason, and you probably know this better than I do. So correct me if I'm wrong. but I believe Satan himself was a musician, was he not?
Yeah, he was a songwriter and
Yeah.
directed the music in heaven. In fact, this says his body was made out of musical instruments.
Well, so yeah, music is a very powerful tool, and like I said, I know I'm quite younger than you are, and I see it in my generation. I see, young men following the script of the music they listen to, and
Right.
I see young women following the script of the social media and the music that they listen to, and
Right.
it's working. It's working, and I think Kathy O'Brien said it best, and this is quote that I use all the time. Knowledge is our only defense against mind control. Knowledge is our only defense against mind control. There's nothing else but knowledge. We need to educate ourselves, educate others. You don't even got to educate people about something in particular. You just need to promote education. You need to say, hey, don't believe what you see on the news. Go find the answer for yourself. Go read a book. If you like this subject, go figure it out. Knowledge is our best and only defense against mind control.
Edgar Allan Poe also was speaking like Kathy O'Brien, and which, by the way, I love Kathy. She is awesome. I
She is
watched her
amazing.
stuff since the 2000s, her YouTube videos exposing all kinds of conspiracy theories. And exposing them as being real. But Edgar Allan Poe was the original conspiracy theorist. In fact, he was against what the monarchies were doing worldwide and was trying to expose them, and knew that if he wrote books about exposing them, they would kill him. So he instead wrote poems about it and stories about it, and kept hidden from the limelight of him exposing them. And he, in my opinion, had the best quote in Abraham, or it was Benjamin Franklin who stole it from him. And the quote is this: it's believe nothing of what you read and only half of what you see.
Yeah, my
And
grandpa used to say that a lot.
I believe that's true to even today. So don't
Absolutely.
believe anything, because it's all a lie to steal, kill, and destroy. It's Satan's world, and we live in a fallen world. Even though Satan doesn't have the keys to death and hell, he still has control and influence through his magic and lies. And that's it. Well, Urban, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you and read that article? Because that's a very interesting article that you put out. Where can they go?
So my Substack it's theofficialurban.substack.com. I'm gonna send you all of my links and like my bio, which is like a list of all my links, so that you can put it in the description of your show,
Mm-hmm.
so people can find me. But it's bio.link slash official urban,
Okay.
bio.link slash official urban, all one
Okay.
word.
All right. And
Um,
that's where all of your articles are?
uh, Everything is there, but my Substack, theofficialurban.substack.com.
Okay.
And you will be able to put those in your just like the description of your show, right?
Yep.
So
Yep,
you do
I
that.
will.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Well,
Um,
thank you so much, buddy. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
you
Hope to have
too.
you again on the show with another great subject. This has been Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Tune in tomorrow night when we have another interesting show for you on whatever God puts into my head to tell you guys. God bless you. God keep you. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.